Good morning. It's 3 past 6 o'clock. Robert and Erin, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Erin back on Monday. Matt Scott, local news. What's up, kiddo?
Oh, we had lots of power outages last night for various reasons. We'll talk about that. And armed suspects on the run in Highland. And, the cops have identified a guy that's been breaking into cars.
An awesome show on the way today. Yes, you want to hear details in less than 10 minutes. Fletcher Sports, traffic, and weather, and it's all coming up this hour, and it's right here on Keel.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. A known con artist is allegedly back at it in Shreveport. Authorities are warning residents to keep an eye out for Alonzo Jackson, who is allegedly posing as a delivery driver and scamming people out of money. Jackson allegedly tells residents a sob story and pleads for cash. The scam has been run for the past 3 to 4 years in Shreveport-Bossier, Monroe, and other surrounding areas. Jackson was busted back in 2015 for swindling a woman out of $400. If Jackson tries to scam you, contact police. Louisiana state and local governments could see a nice influx of revenue when the Revenue Department starts collecting sales tax from online retailers next year. Matt Doyle has more on that.
The Revenue Department is estimating that they'll be ready to collect on all online retailers starting January 1st, 2019. And early reports peg the additional revenue coming into the state at $185 million to $280 million. But Secretary Kimberly Robinson says those early numbers were a bit high.
Anticipate that the lower end number is the more realistic number that we should see coming in as a result of the Wayfair decision at the Supreme Court.
So far, big outlets like Amazon have already started collecting, but Robinson says it's been slow going with other retailers. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
Shreveport police have arrested 2 teens for robbery. According to police, on June 27th, the pair robbed another teen while they were shopping at a local grocery store. The 15 and 16-year-old duo reportedly snatched a sum of money from the boy's hand as he attempted to make a purchase. The 2 teens eventually turned themselves in to police and were charged with simple robbery. And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be free later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Law professor at Loyola University New Orleans, Dane Ciolano, explains why this case is considered a nonviolent crime.
It's a crime of negligence rather than an intentional crime, and that's what has it as one of these lesser offenses that allows for more credit for time served in jail.
Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. And after being dogged for months by scandals, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt has resigned. President Donald Trump accepted Pruitt's resignation Thursday, calling him a, quote, terrific guy. Pruitt was forced out following a series of revelations involving pricey trips with first-class airline seats and unusual security spending, including a $43,000 soundproof booth for making private phone calls. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Ten past 6 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. First traffic for Friday morning. Here's Ruben.
Everything's still looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on Airline Drive just north of I-220 in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
.101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin's last day of vacation. More on that momentarily. Shreveport Security Systems text line is 318-392-1884. You know what? You find out something new. How long have you been the producer? How long have you, Matt Parker, been the producer of this morning show? 2.5 years?
About that. Too long would be the standard answer, but yeah, about 2.5
About 2.5 years, yeah, and dog years, so about almost 15 years. So the point I'm making is this. You think you see somebody 5 days a week, 3, 4, 5 hours every day. You're in the same room for a long time, and then you find out something about them that you did not know. and it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
You, via your mother, have a World Series ring?
Yeah.
A real, honest-to-goodness...
Well, it's not like one of the super expensive ones. They kind of bought like basically, you know, the players get the big expensive ones
So
with
it's
the
not like
diamonds
one of those
and the rubies.
$150,000 worth. Now, tell us more about this. What year? What team?
Oh, it was the Baltimore Orioles whenever they won in, what, 83,
Yeah.
I think it was?
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom worked at the staff, on the staff there.
Which
and,
I didn't know this either.
Yeah. In fact, in our living room, there's a picture of my mom giving Boog Powell a birthday cake. So... But anyway, when they won the World Series
in '83,
everybody got rings. Of course, the players got the super expensive ones, and they have like cheaper knockoff versions for the rest of the
less
staff.
expensive,
Yes.
missing perhaps one or two precious stones. But the point is, how did you end up with it?
Well, it was just in a box of crap, just Oriole stuff, and so I took it all. I got literal.
I would hardly describe a World Series ring of any proportion. In a box of crap, it's a World Series ring. You know what I don't have? A World Series ring.
Well, there are several very nice items surrounded by crap. The majority of the box was crap. But I do have some like sheets of uncut baseball cards.
You need to bring that in one day.
I got to find it.
Show me just the whole box of crap. I want to see what you would call crap. Somebody else, I mean, you might have some awesome stuff in there.
Oh, there is some awesome stuff about like when they won the World Series. I got a stuffed Oriole, you know, the cartoon Oriole bird with the pennant,
Like on the cap, yeah.
And
yeah.
What else do I have? For my birthday, the year I was born in '87, the entire team signed a baseball for me.
See, you're almost like Barry Bonds' kid. And if you remember Barry Bonds, you know, the one that kind of actually almost got run over by the guy in the playoff game a bunch of years ago. But the point is, your backyard, just like Barry Bonds' kid, you go to the stadium with your dad, you hang out around these players.
Yeah.
That to you is what all kids do. You were raised in Baltimore. Your mother worked for the team. You got to go to the game anytime you want. You hung out at the office. If you wanted, you can go out on the field.
Oh, yeah. I knew Memorial Stadium when that was around like the back of my hand.
I understand. And you took it for granted. And to you, it's now nothing more than, he's got his box of crap.
Well,
with a World Series ring in it.
There was some cool stuff in it. It was just the majority of it was crap.
To you, who was raised. See, you just took it for granted, and now it's gone. And you got to bring it in.
I'll dig through my closet this weekend and try to track it down.
So what does somebody do on vacation? Well, if you're Erin McCarty, you don't stop working.
How many times has she emailed us about stuff at 2 a.m. this week? I mean, it's been a 4-day week.
Let us use as circumstantial evidence that
morning.
Matt said a while ago. He said, Erin, I mean, like not directly to Erin, but sort of speaking rhetorically. He said, Erin, if you're not going to take the time off, you come in, you do the news.
I'll go home.
I'll stay at home and not email anybody. We, at about 2 or 2:30 this morning, Erin starts, news bulletin. Erin sends us emails complete with photos. What happened in Bossier?
Well,
are the lights back on?
From what I can tell, the lights are back on, but basically a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire somehow. They're still investigating that, and it knocked off power for like 30 or 40 people.
What's the new part of Bossier City? The little,
East Bank District.
Lights seemed to be out there for a while.
Horseshoe
more
was
specifically
affected.
At Horseshoe.
Boomtown was also affected.
Now, for how long were the lights out at Horseshoe? Because Erin must have been there at 3 a.m. doing something.
It happened late last night, and they got them back up around 3:34 this morning, so maybe 5 hours overnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Anybody else out right now?
As far as I can tell, 1,200 people were out due to the storms yesterday in Caddo. Then you had about 30 this morning due to the fire. But it looks like everybody but maybe a handful, 5 or 6 places are back up and running.
Who else went to Jefferson yesterday? This guy to see Ted Cruz at Joseph's, Riverport Barbecue.
How was that?
The food was awesome. Ted was great. Look, from the get-go in the lengthy competition for the Republican presidential nomination in 2015, then into the election at 16. In 16, I was a Ted Cruz guy from day one. He was my first choice. So, and he's running for re-election, U.S. Senate, and his campaign. He brought the campaign to Jefferson yesterday, and I heard about that, and went over and had lunch at Joseph's, where I had not before. It was awesome. I mean, it's really, really good.
I need to take a ride over there.
It's definitely worth it. And then that was where Ted spoke to a crew, maybe 75 or 100, as many would cram into because it's not a big restaurant at all. And I've got video. We'll put that up just a little bit later.
That's
but
awesome.
it was a fascinating day.
What all did Ted talk about? Anything that would affect us?
Well, he said he was mostly what he did, interestingly enough, although not surprising, because Ted is a team player, he praised the Trump administration.
Well, of course.
He said that the president has achieved or has almost achieved his 4 major goals, which were tax reform, reduce regulation, eliminate Obamacare. That's the one job that is not complete, as he pointed out. And 2, for lack of a better term, stack the judiciary with with young and conservative judges. Then he talked about the border. He did a Q&A. He said he is right. He said, look, I've been saying for 6 years, build the wall. He's been saying for 6 years, and he's legit, going back to what he calls his El Chapo bill, going back a few years, which said that any drug money being confiscated from the Mexican and or Central American drug cartel should be used. Those funds, the billions of dollars, should be put into funding to build the border wall. But we got some video from that, and I'll write that up, put it on the website later at keelnews.com. An awesome show is on the way today.
Understatement of the year.
We will discuss when we get back, 19 past 6 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Ruben's here.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Today will be hot, partly sunny with a high of 95. Then tonight, increasing clouds with a shower or thunderstorm and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Twenty past 6 o'clock, time for Keel Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. The LSU Tigers had been patiently waiting if Bryce Turang, their prize recruit in the 2018-19 class, would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers, who drafted him in the first round, or would he spurn the millions offered by the Brew Crew and show up on campus this year? Well, the drama is over with because Turang, the 6'1", 195-pound shortstop out of California, has signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. In the big leagues yesterday, George Springer snapped an 0-for-8 skid. He'd also been 6 for his last 70 with an RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie things up. And then Yuli Gurriel's base hit over second base gave the Astros a 4-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. The Texas Rangers used Joey Gallo's 2-run homer to get things started, building a 5-0 lead before a rain delay, and then Ronald Guzman made it 7-zip right after the rain delay, but the Rangers had to hang on for dear life, but did pick up the win on the road, 7-5 in Detroit. And in the World Cup today, it's a battle between France and Uruguay, and Brazil and Belgium. The winners advance to the semifinals. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
Well, let me without mentioning names, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin back on Monday. Without mentioning names, and trust me, this is not a golf game I was in on. I was not part of this game this past weekend. $100 a hole, $200 a birdie, $500 for an eagle, and $1,000 for a hole-in-one.
Jeez.
I know.
That's some high stakes there,
and
brother.
then the people I know who were in this game, right? The people I know who were in it ended up a tie. They ended up even at the end of the day. And it's like I'm thinking, oh, my God, then what was the purpose of even playing? Why? If you're going to put all that money out there and end up, you see my point? If you're
I'm
going
with you.
And understand, now, I don't know, do you gamble at all? You never gamble, do you?
I wouldn't say never, but very rarely.
Why?
Well, when I put money down on something, I like to have a guarantee on my return. Like if I go to a bar and lay down 20, I know I'm getting something back. If I go to the poker table, there ain't no guarantee I'm getting anything.
See, here's how I feel about gambling. And it is the total opposite from other people in my family. I'm the only one even my dad. My dad was a big gambler, etc. Anybody that knows my family, yeah, the Wrights will lay down a dime. My sense of gambling is there is no joy in winning. None whatsoever. If I win, all I feel is relief, no joy. I had somebody tell me once, and maybe you'll understand this as an occasional gambler. This is so, if you are a gambler, when I tell you this, maybe it will register with you, maybe it will not. This is so far beyond my comprehension of anything related to gambling. Quote, the best feeling in the world. Have I told you this before? The best feeling in the world is that instant before you know whether you win or lose. And I'm thinking, what? That's like the worst feeling in the world. No, it's the best. It's what makes it all worthwhile. The excitement, the rush, the adrenaline. I said, no.
Well, it's kind of like in sports. If you're a wide receiver, the instant before you either make the catch or blow it, either you're the superstar or you're the dummy. I mean, it's all there.
Maybe
hanging.
That's an apt analogy, but for gambling, for me, if I win on the rare occasions that I'll gamble, like once every decade, if I win, all I feel is relief. And if I lose, all I feel is misery. I think about everything I could have done with that money. Man, think of the number of cans of ravioli. Never mind, I don't want to get
ravioli?
Into that. Ravioli, but look, the reason I couldn't say that is there's a story behind how much money each can of ravioli was. I don't want to get into it. It's a bad memory, and it involves women and New Jersey in the 1980s, and I don't want to talk about it.
Did anybody get their legs broke?
I don't want to talk about it, okay? And it might have been a toe. What I want you to do is go to Facebook.
Yes.
And I want you to click on Ernie Robertson, Registrar of Voters page.
Oh, Ernie, let's see here.
Because he and former mayor and current Representative Cedric Glover will be here in the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to do Shreveport History Day again.
All right.
Did you find where he talked about being on KEEL today?
No, but we're not friends on Facebook, so there's a good chance I can't see it.
Ugh. I can't imagine he's got a lot of privatization stuff.
I don't know.
Basically, what he'd put up on his Facebook page last night is, tomorrow morning, meaning today, on KEEL, be joining Robert J. Wright and Representative Cedric Glover, another Shreveport History Day. I'm hoping we'll talk about, and he listed all this Shreveport musical history stuff. Who was it around here? Was it Adams? A few days ago was saying what he said. It's kind of a shame, and he's not from here, so maybe there's more to this or less to this than he speculates. But he said, for a town, a city, that is as rich in musical history as is Shreveport. Was it Adams said that?
Well, he and I got in this discussion because I guess about a couple of weeks ago, Dunlop, the guitar company, they own the rights to the Jimi Hendrix whatever, and they released a Shreveport Municipal Auditorium edition Jimi Hendrix guitar strap from when he played at the Municipal Auditorium.
Back in the late 60s, yeah. 68, 69 maybe, I don't know.
Whatever year it was.
You know what his opening out? No, it was later on or earlier. Oh, it was earlier.
It was early, but...
No, what I'm saying is earlier in his career, before he emigrated to England for a while, that's when he hit it big. Do you know when he was touring who he was the opening act for?
Was it the Monkees?
The Monkees.
Yeah.
He was opening act for the Monkees. So anyway, later on he played here at Municipal.
Yeah, and they released this special edition guitar strap, which was the same one he wore on stage here, and they had photos and all this. And Greg and I started talking like, all these companies are celebrating stuff that happened here, yet we as a city do nothing with it. Like,
in other words,
like,
there's all this. There's all the Huddy Ledbetter and Elvis, and that's about where
and
it is.
And we just completely ignore everything.
And honest
else.
to God, I don't think James Burton, for all the praise and all the pats on the back, etc., I don't think we celebrate James Burton nearly
exactly.
enough.
I mean, that was one of the things Greg talked about. I mean, when bands come to town, like Queens of the Stone Age were here, last month, 2 months ago? When Josh Homme, the lead singer, was on stage, he's like, I can't believe I'm playing on the same stage Elvis played. This is such a great play. He was just pumped to be in town, yet we take stuff for granted.
What we historically don't get is that Municipal Auditorium, for a number of years, was literally on par in the music world with the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, we could have had that here, but, things happen.
Ernie Robertson, Cedric Glover, Shreveport History Day coming up just after 8 o'clock this morning. Steve Parr from American Ground joins us at 7. 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Ow, I just hit my hand. This is not... Yesterday was such a good day. Today is not starting out that well. Got to play hurt. Here's Ruben.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. A Shreveport woman busted for allegedly stealing thousands of dollars from her employer. Kayla Baker was caught on surveillance video skimming more than $4,500 from the Walmart on Burke Coons, where she worked as a cashier. Caddo Parish Sheriff's deputies arrested and booked Baker for felony theft. The Louisiana Revenue Department is estimating they'll be ready to start collecting sales tax on all items purchased online by the start of the next year. A recent Supreme Court decision has paved the way for collection of sales taxes from stores without a physical presence in states where they ship to. Secretary Kimberly Robinson says a recent report says that'll be a good chunk of change in the state coffers.
That ranges from about 95 million to 280 million. We expect that number will come down some from what that estimate is.
Many major online retailers, such as Amazon, already collect state sales tax for online purchases, but Robinson says right now they're not getting 100% compliance from many of the smaller online outlets. Authorities say a Texas mother with a drug debt to settle is accused of selling her 7-year-old son for $2,500. The Corpus Christi woman was arrested after the woman she sold her child to contacted police. During the investigation, police found information that led them to believe the woman was also preparing to sell off her 2 young daughters as well. And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be freed later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. And Saturday night, you can run with the Bulls in downtown Bossier. Well, kinda. In the vein of the running of the Bulls in Spain, the Twin City Roller Derby team will be hosting Go Toro in the new East Bank district. Members of the roller derby team will be the Bulls and will chase participants all over downtown Bossier. All proceeds will be split between the Gingerbread House and Twin City Roller Derby team. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
.101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, 637. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin is back on Monday quickly because we don't have a lot of time either.
Yes.
What's the guy he was pulling the scam guy? Alonzo, somebody?
Hold on, let me pull
You've got
up
the new story, and I saw it in a couple of locations, and it's not the first time he's pulled it off where he pretends to be. He's got some really intricate sob story, and he's taking
my sister and my nephews were all in a crash. He basically poses as a delivery guy, and when he's, hey, kind of chatting you up, he starts telling the sob story.
Where? Just like in the line at the Walmart? What exactly?
He varies different places. Sometimes he goes into a business and poses as like the coffee delivery guy. Sometimes he'll pose as like
he's got a coffee delivery suit.
I guess
our guy's got a coffee delivery suit.
Some people don't check into that stuff as well as they should.
So what's he doing?
So basically, he's just telling the sob story. I could use a little extra cash. Do you have like a $50 you can spare? And people are just willingly handing over cash. A couple of years ago, Bossier PD busted him for swindling a woman out of $400 doing that.
What was the story there? Basically the same thing?
Yeah, basically the same thing. He's been running this scheme for a few years in Shreveport, Bossier, Monroe, Ruston, just basically the general area.
Speaking of crime, there's also, you had mentioned the story, the guy who ran over a whole bunch of people at Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
What was it, injured nearly 40 people?
30, 35, 34, something like that.
Refresh everyone Tell us, update the story. This guy, well, tell us the story if you don't remember, and he's due to get out of jail.
Yeah, despite being given 5 years for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration.
This is, like about 7 or 8 months ago, right?
Yeah, he went to court and went to jail 7 months ago, but Nielsen Rizzuto was sentenced in January, and he's going to get out later this month.
So it was 2 Mardi Gras ago.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks to the prison reform law that allows the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, this guy is getting out.
Wait, pardon me. He drunkenly drove his car into a crowd and hit 35 people. Mm-hmm. And it is termed legally
as a nonviolent offense, it is a crime of negligence, not violence.
So he ran over 35 people. He gets out of jail this week.
Yeah, July 20th, I believe, is when he's out. So.
101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Traffic and weather updates coming up right now. Ruben's here with the latest.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
.101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Robert and Erin. KEEL app's a free download, and it is presented by Office Furniture Source. Okay, so on Tuesday, we had the Louisiana Commissioner of Administration, Jay Darden. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, with sort of a different view of the same topic, we had Louisiana State Treasurer John Schroeder. Mm-hmm. And what we talked about with both those distinguished gentlemen was the Moody's Investor Service upgrade of Louisiana's financial outlook from negative, or because Matt and I both have very impressive financial backgrounds, so we don't hesitate to use the insider financial term called succo. So basically, Moody's Financial Services upgraded us from negative, also known in the investment world as succo, to stable. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, when we talked to Commissioner Darden, when we talked to Treasurer Schroeder about the way the general obligation bonds system seems to operate in Louisiana and other states as pertains to the budget, and I'm going to tie this together in a second, trust me if you missed this. Did it make any more sense to you? Did it seem any more logical to you than it seemed to us when we looked at each other over the desk and we're going, what? Who does this? Who operates this way?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, in the sense that this is where it's kind of like the real world, that when you are seeking credit, you get a better deal the more money you make, whether or not you have any of that money left or no matter how much money you owe. Does that seem to be the case?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're getting a car loan and you go talk to the financial guy at the dealership, and they're like, we could possibly maybe extend your credit, but they're not extending you credit. It's just we may be able to possibly work something out because this is just predicting the future. You look kind of stable.
You make $100,000 a year. You got no money in your bank account. You drink too much and you gamble a lot, and you really like women. But because you make $100,000 a year, we can work a deal.
We might be able to work a deal.
Okay, we have discussed on numerous occasions what is maybe is the term accidental honesty going too far. And this goes back originally to a chat that we had with Senator Greg Tarver a while back at the beginning of all this whole Louisiana budget back and forth. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I know it was earlier this year, so it may have been like first special session because we just wrapped up number 3 and they did the deal for the 4.45% sales tax, not extension, new tax for 7 years.
Back in April, so yeah, there.
That, which according to Moody's, gives us financial stability. Now we're going to spend it all. We got nothing left, but the point is, you got the money, that's good enough for us. But what we talked about, and Erin would bring this up all the time, and she would say to the politicians or whoever it happened to be, why can't you just cut 10%? And they would always come up with some circuitous answer. Well, one day, accidentally, I proffer, Senator Greg Tarver said basically what we were all thinking. Because when you go to cut the bureaucracy will never cut itself. Mm-hmm. What the bureaucracy will do when faced with monetary cuts, it will not take away from itself, it will take away from you.
Well, let me give you an example better. Before you go to DHH that deal with the Medicaid program, they're going to cut waivers. They know the legislature is not going to cut waivers. You're not going to cut waivers for little bitty kids who are in wheelchairs. They know that, but they'll send you that 10%. And no, you're not going to cut that 10%.
So they're not going to send you real cuts. They're going to send you ones that know that will make your phone ring.
So what you're saying is that if every state department head were told to cut 10%, the first thing they'd cut would be services to the people?
That's exactly right, because they know you're not going to do that.
In other words, they're not going to hurt themselves. Mm-hmm. They're going to hurt you. They're not going to take away their cars or their gas cards or their free insurance or their health care or anything else related to what makes them happy. They're going to take away from you. That's what Mr. Gregg just said. Mm-hmm. Accidental honesty. Well, in all this back and forth debate about the budget and new taxes and extending taxes and the fiscal cliff that we've heard so much about, when we talked with Jay Darden on Tuesday, he accidentally, well, look, I'll play the cut for you guys in just a couple of seconds. But how many times did we hear from so many people like Alan Seabaugh or Dodie Horton or Raymond Cruz on the fiscally conservative side when they would say, look, we've got the cash. They just won't make the cuts. This fiscal cliff is a creation by the governor. Well, listen to this, Jay Darden's slip up.
So when we created this cliff and have been staring at this cliff for 27 months, they moved us to a negative watch, meaning they were concerned about our long-term financial stability.
There it was. You heard it when we created this cliff. What? Greg Tarver, line 2. 649 traffic update.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline, 687-ROAD.
.652, time for KEEL Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. The LSU Tigers had been patiently waiting if Bryce Turang, their prize recruit in the 2018-19 class, would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers, who drafted him in the first round, or would he spurn the millions offered by the Brew Crew and show up on campus this year? Well, the drama is over with because Turang, the 6'1", 195-pound shortstop out of California, has signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. In the big leagues yesterday, George Springer snapped an 0 for 8 skid. He'd also been 6 for his last 70 with an RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie things up. And then Yuli Gurriel's base hit over second base gave the Astros a 4-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. The Texas Rangers used Joey Gallo's 2-run homer to get things started, building a 5-0 lead before a rain delay, and then Ronald Guzman made it 7-zip right after the rain delay, but the Rangers had to hang on for dear life, but did pick up the win on the road, 7-5 in Detroit. And in the World Cup today, it's a battle between France and Uruguay, and Brazil and Belgium. The winners advance to the semifinals. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
655, 1017 FM and 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. I went over to Jefferson yesterday. I had mentioned to see, not only United States Senator, but Senate candidate Ted Cruz, and I'll put the video up later. He was at Joseph's Riverport Barbecue. I had not been there before. It was pretty awesome, and it was raining for a while, and so Ted sort of came in the back way, and if Erin had been there, well, she'd still be in handcuffs. But, she's on vacation, so there's a 40% chance she's in handcuffs right now.
She was doing something at 2 in the morning.
But tell everybody that story, because we've got just about 30 seconds before we go to Rush.
Well, every day this week, she sent an email at like 2 in the morning. This morning, the Horseshoe was without power due to a utility pole fire. And guess who was on the scene at 2:30 this morning taking pictures and getting statements?
Matt and I, at between 2 and 3 a.m., are getting emails from McCarty with photos of Horseshoe in the dark. And I'm thinking, where are you? What are you doing? Why are you out? And what did Matt say? Look, if you want to do the news, come in and do the news.
I'll go out and go to bed.
656, 1017 FM, 710 Keel from American Ground Radio. Steve Parr joins us momentarily right now. Rush.
Since the 1980s, a large medical association based in Chicago has held many of its annual conventions in San Francisco. But San Francisco won't reveal the name of the group, but I bet you can figure it out. Typically, the medical convention draws about 15,000 people. It pumps $40 million into the local economy. But this year, the San Francisco Convention Bureau did not hear anything from the doctors group about re-upping the deal. So San Francisco sent a delegation to Chicago to find out what the problem was. And boy, did they get an earful. The delegation was told the doctors group is pulling out. They're afraid to walk in the streets. Open drug use is rampant in the city. So is threatening behavior from criminals and the mentally ill who are everywhere. Last convention, one of the Medical Association's board members was assaulted near the convention center. Wait a minute, a doctor's group no longer feels safe visiting San Francisco? How can that be? I mean, after all, San Francisco is a proud sanctuary city. Everybody should feel safe, right? You know what the real reason they don't want to go? It's all those piles of human feces that you need a map to avoid. If you're a doctor, why do you want to mess with that?
Have you heard of the thousands of people earning money with a second home? Companies like Airbnb have created a whole new industry for people to tap into the multi-billion-dollar industry of renting. If a second home purchase has not crossed your mind, it should, because you could easily make a couple $1,000s more each month if you list your second home for rent or as a vacation property. Be sure to check your city and county ordinance. Hey, it's Gabby, co-founder of American Financing. Real estate has consistently been a great investment, and qualifying for a second home may be easier than you think. Interest rates remain low, and you can put as little as 10% down. That's right, 10% down. A second home could be more consistent than stocks. An easy way to learn more and get started is to talk to our salary-based mortgage consultants. Why not see what we could do for you? Call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210 or AmericanFinancing.net. American Financing, NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
Keeping an eye right now on some slow-moving traffic on Texas Avenue near Mansfield Road, and we have some slow-moving traffic on Shed Road near Swan Lake Spur in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 1017 FM and 710 Keel. KEEL, Shreveport.
Good morning. It's 3 past 7 o'clock. Robert and Erin, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Erin on vacation this week. Matt has got local news up next.
We are looking for an armed suspect. Oh, it helps if I turn on my microphone.
Couldn't hurt.
The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Strong storms tore some stuff up all over Shreveport-Bossier. And we got some new money coming into the state.
American Ground co-host Steve Plar joins us in just a couple of seconds. Lots of questions, including I'll give him a chance to rant about Al Gore's latest cataclysmic global warming warnings. Fletcher, sports, traffic, and weather all coming up this hour here on KEEL.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. Shreveport police have had their hands full trying to identify a group of people burglarizing cars all around the city. While several are still on the run, police do think they have identified one man. SPD received a tip that one man seen burglarizing 4 different cars on Columbia Street is Jalen Agger. Agger is wanted by SPD for simple burglary. A known con artist is allegedly back at it in Shreveport. Authorities are warning residents to keep an eye out for Alonzo Jackson, who is allegedly posing as a delivery driver and scamming people out of money. Jackson allegedly tells residents a sob story and pleads for cash. The scam has been run for the past 3 to 4 years in Shreveport-Bossier, Monroe, and other surrounding areas. Jackson was busted back in 2015 for swindling a woman out of $400. If Jackson tries to scam you, contact police. Louisiana state and local governments could see a nice influx of revenue when the Revenue Department starts collecting sales tax from online retailers next year. Matt Doyle has more on that.
The Revenue Department is estimating that they'll be ready to collect on all online retailers starting January 1st, 2019. And early reports peg the additional revenue coming into the state at $185 million to $280 million. But Secretary Kimberly Robinson says those early numbers were a bit high.
Anticipate that the lower end number is the more realistic number that we should see coming in as a result of the Wayfair decision at the Supreme Court.
So far, big outlets like Amazon have already started collecting, but Robinson says it's been slow going with other retailers. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be free later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Law professor at Loyola University New Orleans, Dane Ciolano, explains why this case is considered a nonviolent crime.
It's a crime of negligence rather than an intentional crime, and that's what has it as one of these lesser offenses that allows for more credit for time served in jail.
Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. President Donald Trump is narrowing the list of possible nominees for the vacancy on the Supreme Court caused by retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy. Trump says, quote, I think I have it down to 4 people, and I think of those 4 people, I have it down to 2 or 3. The president has wrapped up the interview process and is moving closer to picking his court nominee amid intense jockeying from various factions seeking to influence the choice. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Nine past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Traffic time. Ruben's here.
Keeping an eye right now on some slow-moving traffic on Texas Avenue near Mansfield Road, and we have some slow-moving traffic on Shed Road near Swan Lake Spur in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Good morning. It's 12 past 7 o'clock. Robert J. Wright, Erin McCarty, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. The KEEL app is always a free download presented by Office Furniture Source. Erin's off until Monday. Wait, one more day. This has been a weird week because it's like there's 2 Mondays, but there's 2 Fridays, and today's the real one.
Well, technically speaking, Erin hasn't been gone this week at all.
No, she keeps emailing us news stories to cover.
Just come in and do it.
I know.
Come on in.
You come in, do the news.
I'll take the day off.
Matt'll go home and eat pie. Stephen Parr, co-host American Ground Radio, Monday through Friday, 6 till 7, along with Louis R. Avalone here on KEEL, back for another hour or so. Welcome back, amigo.
I just can't stay away.
It's, you said something, I want to follow up on this. You said something as we were doing our intensive show prep for this hour.
Uh-huh.
And I assume at this point, legally speaking, you are allowed to discuss at some length your previous career. Am I right?
Oh, actually, yes. I can even predict the weather now.
As a meteorologist, you not well, and we'll get into this later.
Yeah.
Not only are you a meteorologist, but you also have degrees in.
I have a master's degree in geosciences.
Good Lord, man.
Yeah.
And we were talking a couple of seconds ago about weather systems, this, that, the other, and at one point you had said, and this sort of ties in with Erin, like you don't have to work
right
when you're not here.
When you take the time off, take the time off.
And you had said it took you a while after you got off TV weatherman duty to like see a storm and not feel responsible for it.
Well, actually, it was the very next day after I was done with my job at KSLA. The very next day, went out to dinner with some friends at Olive Garden. And I saw off in the distance there was a supercell thunderstorm. I knew that thing had gone just by looking at it. I was like, that's a severe thunderstorm.
It's my job for 15 years.
Right.
I know what
that's
I see.
over in East Texas. I see it traveling off towards the northeast. I know exactly what this is. And that is not my responsibility.
Which brings us to the line that you said about 10 minutes ago that I want to follow up on.
Okay.
About your mom, and you're on television doing a weather report about a tornado. He said, and the tornado was chasing my mother.
It really was.
What?
There's a tornado outbreak going on. She was driving from Houston up to Little Rock, taking some furniture up to my brother when he lived in Little Rock. So she's on 59, and she's hauling a trailer, okay? And I'm getting these severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warnings going on, and I'm cutting on air. And I'm on the green screen, I'm pointing it out, and I get a text from my mom, and she tells me where she is. Well, I'm on the map, and so I'll just zoom into where the thunderstorm is, and I see where she is, and she's about 30 minutes ahead of a tornado.
This is basically Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton in Twister.
Yeah, pretty much. She never told me she saw a cow, but we weren't too far away.
Hi, Mom. Cow.
There are cows in East Texas, so it was possible. But as she's driving north on 59, and she says, hey, I'm here in Marshall, and all I have time to do is to text back, keep going.
We're laughing at your poor mother's misfortune.
So she just keeps driving. She gets up to Texarkana, texts me, I'm in Texarkana, and that's great. But now there's another thunderstorm, and that one's gone severe, and it's starting to come towards her, and I just text her back, keep going.
Wow.
She finally calls my dad.
From Missouri.
Well, yeah, she's actually in Arkadelphia at this point. She calls my dad and says, I've got to take a bathroom break, but Steven tells me to keep driving. What is going on?
That's my boy.
She didn't get to stop till Hot Springs.
Now, post-meteorological career, you have taken on the mantle of conservative radio talk show host.
Right.
Author, and I want to talk about that for a second because you and I had touched on this, and I don't remember if going back a few months, one of the many times you have joined me in Erin's absence, but I know you mentioned it to me, and I apologize. I don't recall if it was on or off the radio.
Okay.
But you're working on a book called The Second Sentence?
That's it.
Is that the name of it?
That's the name of it. You got it down.
Okay. I want to talk about that. Tell me the origin of the title and what it means, and tell us about the book.
Okay, so first of all, if you were to name the two most famous speeches in American history, what do you think are the two most famous speeches in American history?
Oh my, the two that pop into my head would be Gettysburg Address and maybe Roosevelt's Day in Infamy speech.
That's a good one.
Go ahead.
For me, it's Gettysburg Address and I Have a Dream. Martin Luther King. Okay. Both of those speeches reference the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence.
What?
Both of them talk about, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the sentence goes on. It's a very long sentence. But that's the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. And Martin Luther King referred to it as the American Creed. It is the heart of the idea of what America is. America is the first country that was founded on an idea, not on territory, not on brute force, not on tribalism. It was founded on an idea.
King had referred to the Constitution, I think, as America's promise. I don't want to get too far off the track. Please continue.
Yeah, but it was the creed. Okay, it was the heart of the idea that all men are created equal. That is the statement of belief of America. Now, if America was founded on an idea, this is the idea of America itself. All right, and it's based upon the idea of natural law, that there are things that are right and there are things that are wrong. And it's obvious, if you really look at it, it's obvious what's right and it's obvious what's wrong, okay? You can take every single political issue we are facing today, and if you will run it back through the filter of what the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence says, you will come up with the right answer. You will come up with the answer that does the most good for the most people.
Hold the thought. I know you are just getting started. We want to hear more when we get back from break.
Okay.
How far into this book are you, by the way?
Well, I've written it once and went back and went, no, it's too complicated, and I'm rewriting it.
But it's called The Second Sentence. Steve tells us more when we get back. 18 past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, traffic, weather, sports, up next. Nineteen past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, traffic update.
Keeping an eye right now on some slow-moving traffic on Texas Avenue near Mansfield Road, and we have some slow-moving traffic on Shed Road near Swan Lake Spur in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Today will be hot, partly sunny with a high of 95. Then tonight, increasing clouds with a shower or thunderstorm and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Fletch.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. The LSU Tigers had been patiently waiting if Bryce Terang, their prize recruit in the 2018-19 class, would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers, who drafted him in the first round, or would he spurn the millions offered by the Brew Crew and show up on campus this year? Well, the drama is over with because Terang, the 6'1", 195-pound shortstop out of California, has signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. In the big leagues yesterday, George Springer snapped an 0 for 8 skid. He'd also been 6 for his last 70 with an RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie things up. And then Yuli Gurriel's base hit over second base gave the Astros a 4-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. The Texas Rangers used Joey Gallo's two-run homer to get things started, building a 5-0 lead before a rain delay. And then Ronald Guzman made it 7-zip right after the rain delay, but Rangers had to hang on for dear life, but did pick up the win on the road, 7-5 in Detroit. And in the World Cup today, it's a battle between France and Uruguay, and Brazil and Belgium. The winners advance to the semifinals. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
23 past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. She back on Monday. Don't need a verb in that sentence. Steve Parr from American Ground Radio, nightly here on Keel 6 till 7, is sitting in. So you were talking about the book you're working on called The Second Sentence, which, if you're just joining us, is based on...
The idea is that you can take any single political issue and you can run it back through what the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence says, and it will tell you the correct answer. And this is not just for a federal political issue. This is a state or a local political issue. It's any political issue. You can run it back through what the second sentence says, and you're going to come up with an answer that's good for the most people.
Give me examples. Give me one or two examples.
Here's probably the biggest one, which is the abortion debate. Okay, so you people say, well, you know, the Declaration of Independence written in 1776 says nothing about abortion. Absolutely wrong. It clearly lays out what is and what is the right or the wrong answer on abortion. Because first of all, it says that we are all given the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? But those three are in a specific order: life, then liberty, then the pursuit of happiness. Because you cannot pursue your happiness if you're not free. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You can't be free if you're not given the chance to live. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So one person cannot pursue their happiness. You can't go pursue your happiness if in the pursuit of happiness you take someone else's right to life. That is against natural law. That's against the idea of America itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we get to the point of where does life begin? All right, so because someone's saying, look, it's my body, my choice. Absolutely, as long as your body, your choice doesn't infringe upon some other person's right to life. So you can't have abortion be legal and just if you're taking someone else's life without due process. That's what abortion does. Now we get back to, when does life actually begin? Okay, so you can say, well, look at the beginning of that sentence. We are all created equal. When are we created? Well, that's at conception. So we are all created the exact same way, the exact same process. So you can either say that life begins there, or if you want to look at where does life actually begin, let's look at where death is. People are declared dead when they no longer have a heartbeat or brainwaves, right? If you don't have heartbeat, you don't have brainwaves, they say you're dead. Well, that makes, you can go back then, if you have a heartbeat and you have brainwaves, you're alive. So now instead of saying late-term abortion, 22nd week or whatever, you go, no, it's somewhere between creation, heartbeat, and brainwave. That's where we should be talking. That's the window of where the debate should be. Anything beyond that goes against the idea of America itself, because you cannot have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the wrong order.
Give me another example. I can tell maybe, don't mean to go out on a limb.
Yeah.
You've thought about this a little bit.
I've been thinking about this, a lot. What if government's doing something it's not supposed to do? What's the job of government? All right. So there's what's the size and scope of government? And this is any government, by the way. This is from your school board all the way to your city council, to your state representatives, all the way up to the national federal level. Okay. What is the proper job of government? What is government supposed to do? Government only has one job, and that is to secure our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's the second sentence says, governments, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. That's the only reason we have government, is to protect our rights to life, keep us safe, keep us free, and let us go pursue our happiness. If a government gets involved in something that's beyond its scope, if a government's doing something that's not about securing our rights to life, securing our rights to liberty, or securing our pursuit of happiness, then it's doing something it's not supposed to do, and it will ultimately do something that erodes those rights. And that's where government gets in trouble, because the second sentence continues, whenever government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish that government. So if a government goes too far, gets too big, starts saying we're going to regulate health care, well, that has nothing to do with life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That's health care. That's something else. We're now taking away people's liberty. We're taking away the liberty of people to make their own choices. You've become destructive to liberty. That means we have the right to change that government, and if that doesn't work, we have the right to abolish that government and put a new government in its place. And by the way, we've already abolished our government here in the United States twice. And that we abolished the monarchy coming out of Great Britain with the Revolution. We abolished the Articles of Confederation because those weren't working for us, and we created the Constitution. We have altered the Constitution 27 times with amendments. That's one of the brilliances of the Constitution, is that it allows us to easily alter our government without having to abolish it altogether. But if government gets too far out of line, and this is school board, your school board starts doing something that infringes upon people's right to pursue their happiness, you can abolish that government.
I've said a lot of times for a lot of years, I've said there's nothing in the Constitution about health care, but we have Obamacare.
No. Right.
There's nothing in the Constitution about education, but we have a Department of Education.
That's exactly right.
And the only mention in the Constitution about guns is keep your hands off.
And that's because it's about the right to protect my life, to protect my liberty, and to protect my pursuit of happiness. Government should allow us to do that.
28 past 7 o'clock, more with Steve Parr, American Ground co-host on the way. Right now, traffic update. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Fern Avenue and East 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we're still keeping an eye on a minor accident on I-20 eastbound near Joella Avenue. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
KEEL News now.
Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. A Shreveport woman busted for allegedly stealing thousands of dollars from her employer. Kayla Baker was caught on surveillance video skimming more than $4,500 from the Walmart on Burke Coons, where she worked as a cashier. Caddo Parish Sheriff's deputies arrested and booked Baker for felony theft. The Louisiana Revenue Department is estimating they'll be ready to start collecting sales tax on all items purchased online by the start of the next year. A recent Supreme Court decision has paved the way for collection of sales taxes from stores without a physical presence in states where they ship to. Secretary Kimberly Robinson says a recent report says that'll be a good chunk of change in the state coffers.
That ranges from about 95 million to 280 million. We expect that number will come down some from what that estimate is.
Many major online retailers, such as Amazon, already collect state sales tax for online purchases, but Robinson says right now they're not getting 100% compliance from many of the smaller online outlets. Authorities say a Texas mother with a drug debt to settle is accused of selling her 7-year-old son for $2,500. The Corpus Christi woman was arrested after the woman she sold her child to contacted police. During the investigation, police found information that led them to believe the woman was also preparing to sell off her 2 young daughters as well. And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be free later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. And Saturday night, you can run with the Bulls in downtown Bossier. Well, kinda. In the vein of the running of the Bulls in Spain, the Twin City Roller Derby team will be hosting Go Toro in the new East Bank district. Members of the roller derby team will be the Bulls and will chase participants all over downtown Bossier. All proceeds will be split between the Gingerbread House and Twin City Roller Derby team. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
.101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert and Erin, 7:35. Miss Erin back on Monday morning. Steve Parr from the American Ground radio show, heard nightly here on KEEL 6 till 7 with co-host Louis R. Avalone. I had asked you a couple of seconds ago, a couple of minutes ago, I had said, how old are your kids? And you had said...
12 and 17.
17.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because this will be sort of a setup for the next long segment.
Okay.
You were on television for how long?
17 years.
And so you just assumed, did you assume that barring some sort of tragic circumstance, that you would just be a TV meteorologist forever, that it would be kind of a cool job, you'd play out the string, you'd retire, and you'd be sort of a retired TV legend and people would give you stuff?
Well, I didn't expect people to give me stuff, but I expected to be on television doing weather for the rest of my life. Yeah.
In other words, it never occurred to you that at some point you may, out of necessity, have to make your living as a conservative talk show host and author.
Not until I was sitting in church one day.
And that's... See, you asked my question for me. Tell me.
I was sitting in church, and the pastor was doing a story on, basically he was talking about the Holy Spirit, and he was talking about anointings and things like this, what you're supposed to do. And I'm sitting in church with my family, chief meteorologist for the TV station, and I hear from God, your anointing is about to be taken away. And I was like, wait, I'm the chief meteorologist, that this is how I make my living. You're going to take my anointing away. That's kind of a bummer. And sure enough, within fairly short order, I no longer felt that I was supposed to be where I was. I thought I was supposed to go and do something else. It was time to quit. It was time to leave.
When you were doing television, were these thoughts that you so amazingly articulate to us this morning, Were they there? Were they forming? Did you talk about this with friends? Did you do writing of your own and just put it in a drawer somewhere?
I would not, because I still wanted journalistic integrity. I still wanted to be able to cover, if I was going to go do something, I wanted to be able to put whatever political opinions I had completely aside and start from scratch on any specific story I would do. Because that's really the only way to be a good journalist, is to recognize that you have biases and to say, okay, I've got to set these aside. I've got to set myself aside. I cannot be part of this. I have to go and seek real truth. And if I was giving in to my political biases, that would be harder to do. It would be harder to get to a good starting point on that.
Would it be fair to say that when the television career came to a crashing end, that you were like, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is what I know. This is what I've done for nearly 20 years. This is holy crap. I'm in a world of trouble.
No, one, I didn't feel like I was in a world of trouble because I felt like God was telling me I'm supposed to go do something else.
Go ahead.
So I figured there would be a path.
See, you're asking my questions for you. Go ahead.
Okay. I also went, well, look, I haven't used my marketing degree in many years, but I've worked in a business with marketing all around me. I know good messages. I know good communication. I'm just going to start my marketing company. I'm going to move to Houston, and I'm going to do my marketing there. And that was my original plan.
In retrospect, and I think a lot of people who are faced with difficult and or seemingly disastrous times, in retrospect, was the end of a TV career, or at least at that point, the best thing that ever happened to you?
I can't say it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I think getting my first job in TV maybe was the second best thing that ever happened to me. Getting married to my wife, that was the best thing I've ever done, was marry her. Getting started in TV was, as news, was...
Let me rephrase. The experiences that you learned in television as far as communication and thinking on the fly and ad-libbing and forming thoughts, what I call seeing the teleprompter in your head.
Right, yeah.
Would you say that it's, in your life now, it's better that you're not on TV anymore?
It's absolutely better that I'm not on TV anymore, because what I'm working on, what Lewis and I have put together, starting with Conservative Ground and now with the radio show, what we're working on is something that we're trying to take to every single county and parish across the entire country. And as a weatherman at a TV station, you're not going to have that specific influence on that many people. What we really believe is that if you want to inspire voters, and I think Americans need to be inspired, if we want to inspire voters, we have to develop leaders, and we have to do that at the grassroots level. We, as Americans, we need better leaders. We need leaders who understand that the job of leadership is to serve, and that has to start at the local level all over the country. That's the mission that we're on.
Now, what on earth does this have to do with your 17-year-old?
That's a good question.
Find out when we get back. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. More with Steve up next. Right now, here's Ruben.
Just received reports of a minor accident on I-20 eastbound near Joella Avenue, and we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Green Acres Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
742, it's 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. A little bit more with Steve Parr from American Ground Radio, nightly on KEEL, 6 till 7. So your daughter is 17.
My son's 17.
Sorry, got it backwards. Yeah. Your son is 17.
Yeah.
And not to give too much background, but I heard this guy talking a couple of days ago, and he is a staunch political conservative, and he brought up the point that my 19-year-old college age, my 19-year-old daughter, he said, is if the election were tomorrow, she'd vote for Elizabeth Warren. She is one of those college-age kids that not only embraces socialism, but sees it as the only hope for an unraveling. And so my question to you is, what kind of political discourse, what kind of political conversations have you had with your 17-year-old son? And more specifically, what if your 17-year-old son, what if in talking politics with your kid, he says, that Bernie Sanders guy, he's freaking smart, Dad?
Well, for us, it all starts with the individual. The Declaration of Independence is about the individual, okay? And so when I've talked to politics with my kids, and I've indoctrinated them in this idea that what makes America great is the greatness that exists within each individual person. And in order to make our country as strong as possible, we have to allow that greatness within individuals to manifest in the real world. As you pursue your happiness and you achieve what it is you were put on this planet to do, that makes our country stronger. Every single one of us doing that. You can't do that when you have a government that thinks the individual is not important, but that the group is more important than the individual. You can't have that. And that's socialism. Socialism says the group is more valuable than the individual. And that's wrong, and it's why it fails. And so I've talked with the kids about this. But this week, they're actually on a trip with my parents up the East Coast. They've been to Washington, D.C., they've been to Mount Vernon, they've been to Williamsburg, they've been to Philadelphia, they went to New York City, they went to West Point. They've traveled the East Coast, and they've been in, they were in Washington, D.C., going through Congress. Mike Johnson actually got them some tickets to go onto the gallery of the House there. And I texted them yesterday morning. I said, look, I just saw this poll, and I want you guys to talk about this. Given everything you've seen this week, talk about why this is a big problem. Only 1 out of 3 18 to 29-year-olds are extremely proud to be Americans. Only 1 out of 3 18 to 19-year-olds are extremely proud. Why is that a potential problem for the future well-being of this country?
First of all, how do you think your kids would answer? B, what did they say?
I thought that they would answer the way that I answer, because I think they've got the idea that there's greatness within them, and that in order for them to achieve it, no one's going to give you your greatness. You have to go and pursue that. You have to go and achieve that on your own. And I think both kids understand that there is something inside them that can be great, but they have to go and do it. But I wanted them to see what the founders were talking about and relate what the founders were talking about back in the 1700s to where life is today. And they've also heard a talk that I give about American exceptionalism. Basically, if you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right. Well, American exceptionalism, if we think we are exceptional as a country, then we will be. But if we start to think that we are not exceptional as a country, we're just like every other country, then we will be just like every other country. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. And these are things I've told the kids. They've bought into it. And as they had the discussion, and then they called me back and said, yeah, the problem is that if you aren't proud to be, if you aren't proud of what America's accomplished, then you don't understand what America's all about.
And yet from the political left, the zeitgeist has been for, especially in the you said the indoctrination.
Yeah.
In our education system for nigh on 3 or 4 decades, we're not that much better than anybody else. We're not really legitimate. We're just a bunch of nasty old people who stole stuff.
Okay. And look at what America has been for the last 3 or 4 decades. Have we been world beaters since the fall of communism, right? Since Ronald Reagan left the scene, has America been expanding its lead over the rest of the world, or have we seen that deteriorate? Have we become more like the rest of the world or more exceptional? And it's a mindset. We as Americans have to believe that America is exceptional. And it's not based on race. It's not based on territory. It's based 100% on attitude. The attitude that comes from, by the way, the Declaration of Independence, our founding document, which is we are all created equal. And we all have the right to pursue our happiness. And as each person is able to pursue their happiness and even achieve that happiness, that makes America stronger in a way that no other country that doesn't follow those ideas can match.
Steve Parr, it's American Ground Radio here on Keel nightly from 6 till 7, along with co-host Louis R. Avalone. Don't go away. A little more, one more action-packed segment.
Excellent.
So stay there. 748, 1017 FM, 710 Keel traffic, weather, your money now next.
Just received reports of a minor accident on I-20 eastbound near Joella Avenue, and we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Green Acres Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Breaking news and trending talk. 1017 FM and 710 Keel. KeelNews.com. KeelNews.com.
It is 8 before 8 o'clock, 1017 FM, 710 Keel Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. The LSU Tigers had been patiently waiting if Bryce Terang, their prize recruit in the 2018-19 class, would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers, who drafted him in the first round, or would he spurn the millions offered by the Brew Crew and show up on campus this year? Well, the drama is over with because Terang, the 6'1", 195-pound shortstop out of California, has signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. In the big leagues yesterday, George Springer snapped an 0 for 8 skid. He'd also been 6 for his last 70 with an RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie things up. And then Yuli Gurriel's base hit over second base gave the Astros a 4-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. The Texas Rangers used Joey Gallo's 2-run homer to get things started, building a 5-0 lead before a rain delay, and then Ronald Guzman made it 7-zip right after the rain delay, but the Rangers had to hang on for dear life, but did pick up the win on the road, 7-5 in Detroit. And in the World Cup today, it's a battle between France and Uruguay, and Brazil and Belgium. The winners advance to the semifinals. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
.755, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Robert and Erin. Miss Erin back on Monday. Steve Parr for one more quick segment. American Ground, weeknights on Keel, 6 till 7 with Louis R. Avalone. What's on the table for this evening?
You know, I'm not really sure.
Or have
but,
you not had the meeting? You know what I want you to finish up with?
Yeah.
Because you've got a segment called the Mamas.
The American Mamas, yeah.
Okay, and you told me about a riff they got on, was it last night?
Last night, Terry Netterville is Terry Spinks Netterville.
Right.
And her sister, Kimberly Burleson, Kimberly Spinks Burleson.
Now, see, I knew her maiden name was Spinks, but I didn't tie, like so many things in the Arklatext.
Right.
With so many people. Well, anyway, you tell the story.
So they found their father is Tommy Spinks,
right,
who was the wide receiver best friend of Terry Bradshaw through middle school, high school, college, and even on to the Steelers. That just doesn't happen, right, anywhere, but it happened here. Well, after their father passed away, their mother found a box of notes that he was writing about his life, and he also included a letter that he had for Terry Bradshaw. So he wrote a letter 5 days before he died to Terry Bradshaw.
Wow.
Gave it to Kimberly to give to Terry Bradshaw, and it took her a couple of years to finally give it to him, but he finally gave it to him. Terry read it, was very moved, said, sure, you can write the book, sure, you can include this in the book. Terry has a letter to him that's in the book, and it's called Dreamcatcher, and you can go to dreamcatcherbook.com and pre-order. But they had a great discussion on last night about it. It was amazing. We're posting that online on our Facebook page, facebook.com/American Ground Radio.
Can you, in the last 30 seconds or so, just what were the highlights to you of that letter?
Here's the best thing that I heard. Kimberly asked her dad, did you always want to be an NFL star? And he said, no, that was never my dream. That was Terry's dream. But dreams are contagious, and I caught his.
Damn.
Isn't that great?
That's awesome.
Dreamcatcherbook.com.
That's amazing. Steve Parr, American Ground Radio with Louis R. Avalone, weeknight 6 till 7 here on Keel. Tonight, certainly no exception. Excellent job, amigo. My pleasure as always. 7:57, here's Hannity on Keel.
Waking up on the right side. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
All right, so the president has an incredibly successful summit with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, negotiating now the denuclearization of the entire Korean peninsula. A historic deal by the president, major step, the possibilities of peace now so much greater than they were just 6 months ago. So how does the left and liberals respond? Well, Newsbusters points out Congresswoman Nancy Crumbs Pelosi tweeting in haste to reach an agreement at real Donald Trump elevated North Korea to the level of the United States while preserving the regime's status quo. Of course she doesn't want Trump to be successful. Why? Because if he's successful, she will never be speaker again.
From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, it's the Sean Hannity Show.
Hey, I recently gave my home a facelift. I did it the best, simplest way possible. Brand new custom blinds, thanks to my friends at Blinds.com. You always get free online design consultation, free samples, and free shipping. By the way, their prices are unbeatable. Blinds.com, the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. And now, through July the 6th, well, you're going to save up to 50%, plus take an additional 5% off just by using the promo code Hannity. That's Blinds.com, promo code Hannity. Rules, restrictions apply. Hey, Sean Hannity here. You tired of taking huge vitamin tablets? Unlike most vitamins, which are packed with binders and fillers and non-active ingredients, Superior Source microlingual tablets feature only the most important active ingredients and are GMO-free. Now, most Superior Source microlingual tablets are smaller than a pea, and they dissolve instantly in your mouth. No water necessary. Superior Source microlingual instant dissolve tablets are available online or at Sprouts, Vitamin Shops, and other fine.
Keeping an eye right now on some slow-moving traffic on Hollywood Avenue near Hearn Avenue. And we have some traffic delays on Barksdale Boulevard near Hamilton Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
This is 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport.
Good morning. It's 8:03. Robert and Erin, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Erin off until Monday. Matt has news. It is next. What you got, amigo?
The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Some strong storms and a utility pole fire kind of screwed up a lot of people's mornings. And the state's getting some extra money. What are they going to do with it?
One of my favorite things to do on this radio show when Erin's on vacation, and sometimes when she's here. We're going to do Shreveport History Day again today.
It's awesome.
With Cedric Glover and Ernie Robertson. And I got to go. Cedric's at the door, so I'll be right back. Fletcher has sports, traffic, and weather. It's all coming up this hour on KEEL.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. A known con artist is allegedly back at it in Shreveport. Authorities are warning residents to keep an eye out for Alonzo Jackson, who is allegedly posing as a delivery driver and scamming people out of money. Jackson allegedly tells residents a sob story and pleads for cash. The scam has been run for the past 3 to 4 years in Shreveport-Bossier, Monroe, and other surrounding areas. Jackson was busted back in 2015 for swindling a woman out of $400. If Jackson tries to scam you, contact police. Louisiana state and local governments could see a nice influx of revenue when the Revenue Department starts collecting sales tax from online retailers next year. Matt Doyle has more on that.
The Revenue Department is estimating that they'll be ready to collect on all online retailers starting January 1st, 2019. And early reports peg the additional revenue coming into the state at $185 million to $280 million. But Secretary Kimberly Robinson says those early numbers were a bit high.
To anticipate that the lower end number is the more realistic number that we should see coming in as a result of the Wayfair decision at the Supreme Court.
So far, big outlets like Amazon have already started collecting, but Robinson says it's been slow going with other retailers. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
Shreveport police have arrested 2 teens for robbery. According to police, on June 27th, the pair robbed another teen while they were shopping at a local grocery store. The 15 and 16-year-old duo reportedly snatched a sum of money from the boy's hand as he attempted to make a purchase. The 2 teens eventually turned themselves in to police and were charged with simple robbery. And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be free later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Law professor at Loyola University New Orleans, Dane Ciolano, explains why this case is considered a nonviolent crime.
It's a crime of negligence rather than an intentional crime, and that's what has it as one of these lesser offenses that allows for more credit for time served in jail.
Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. And after being dogged for months by scandals, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt has resigned. President Donald Trump accepted Pruitt's resignation Thursday, calling him a, quote, terrific guy. Pruitt was forced out following a series of revelations involving pricey trips with first-class airline seats and unusual security spending, including a $43,000 soundproof booth for making private phone calls. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Nine past 8 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Traffic update. Ruben's here.
Keeping an eye right now on some slow-moving traffic on Hollywood Avenue near Hearn Avenue. And we have some traffic delays on Barksdale Boulevard near Hamilton Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
I'm just going to let you guys go. You can, Matt'll wave when it's time for commercials. I'm going to go down. You know what I'm going to do? Go out to my car and listen on the radio because it's going to be amazing.
Well, all the talking you've been doing, you should go get us some barbecue.
101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin out until Monday. In studio guests, this is one of my favorite things to do. We have Shreveport History Day with, in no specific order, let's do beauty and age. Registrar of Voters Ernie Robertson is here, but not as Registrar of Voters, but as an august and a Shreveport historian. And State Representative Cedric Glover, not as a state representative, but as an august Shreveport historian. Gentlemen, welcome back to KEEL.
Good morning.
Now, we've got lots of things to talk about. I don't know if you saw this on Facebook last night talking to Cedric. I don't know if you saw this last night, but one of the two of you in this room, not you, attempted to not so subtly influence the topic for the morning by posting on Facebook what specifically he wanted to talk about. And we'll get to that. But the first thing we were talking about off the air, so let's just keep going with that, was food, specifically Shreveport barbecue. And going back, I had mentioned, and you do remember it, It was a joint over in Bossier. Yes. And I used to go when I was in high school and then when we were in college together at LSUS called Double R.
Double R.
And it was on the Bossier side where the Trejos is now.
That's right.
And the smoker was right in the middle of the restaurant. And you would be in there for 15 or 20 minutes. And you would, I just said, just throw those clothes away. Because you would, I mean, you could smell, it was an awesome place. And there was a fellow that owned it. I remember he was just called the Colonel. Do you remember that? Do you have any recollection?
No, I don't have any recollection of that because I was more of a Foley's Pioneer Barbecue man because it was $5 for $1.
What? That's odd you mentioned that because let me tell you, when I was in, this is awesome. And in retrospect, I hazard to speculate what the cornerstone of this recipe was. But at the old Pack-A-Sacks, you used to be able to get crock-pot barbecue sandwiches 5 for $1.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, what must have been?
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know. The only difference between a pork and a beef was pork, you got the green toothpick.
When you were a kid growing up in Shreveport, what was your favorite restaurant?
Well, we went to El Chico all the time on Greenwood Road.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Cuellar started. My parents were living at Alamo Plaza when they came to Shreveport across the street when he started building it. And what was there before he started building it? That's a great question. Great trivia question. It's quite a place that was there, by the way. But he started building it, and I believe the actual amount of the permit was $4,500, and he lived in the back.
Wow. When you were a kid, what was your favorite place?
The original Freeman Harris Cafe.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what I remember about them was the few times I went there before it closed because I had just moved back was, as I recall, they made the potato salad with mashed potatoes, and it was just awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Abe's, when I would come home to visit before it closed there on
Market.
Yeah. Abe's. What was Abe's last name?
Rittman. He worked for me.
What?
He worked for me after he retired. He was a great guy, and he said, I want to get out of the house. Can I come work for you? And so I said, you're not going to get paid anything. I don't care. I just want to get out of the house.
See what we're headed for? That's destiny right there. I remember because I moved away from here in 72 after my sophomore year at LSUS. I got into radio, moved away in 72, and moved back in 96. But every time in those years that I would come home to visit, the one place I would want Mom and Dad, I said, come on, get in the car. We're going to Abe's. And it would be awesome. And I brought sort of in the early 80s maybe, a date, if you will, home with me. And she was from Michigan and had never ventured far to the south at all. And we are at Abe's one evening with my parents, Alice and Bill, and my family. We're at Abe's, and the waiter, whose name eludes me, sort of picked up on the fact that she wasn't from here. And she had literally not only never seen a crawfish, much less a live crawfish. And he brought her a plate with a live crawfish on it. And the screams are still resonating on that foundation there on Market Street. What I want to talk about, hold on, I've got it on my phone. And I want to start off, and this is something that both of you guys, I know you can dig your teeth into this. Mr. Cedric and Ernie, of course. Ernie put this on Facebook last night. What did I say? A subtle attempt to influence the topic of the morning. Friday morning, tomorrow, July 6th, KEEL Radio, 8 till 9, live Shreveport history with Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. State Representative Cedric Glover also there, and yours truly. You never know what we'll discuss because Robert is in charge of the questions. But the unseen history behind the scenes, I hope we talk about, and I know you've got a couple of state fair stories that are awesome, especially 4-H stuff. I hope we talk about the state fair, 60s rock and roll, and who knows what else, maybe some urban legends. Speaking of Shreveport legends, by the way, happy birthday, Stan Lewis. If you don't mind, let Cedric start this off. We've got a couple of minutes, 3 minutes left in this segment. You told a story early on when you were a kid, maybe 6th, 7th grade, and being in 4-H and how you met Virginia Sheehy originally, and it is such an amazing story. Tell us that one.
Well, my original encounter with Virginia Sheehy probably started even earlier than that because my older brothers and sisters were in 4-H. And obviously, Virginia Sheehy was one of the local leaders of supporting the junior livestock auction, livestock sale that went with the 4-H livestock show every year. For the state fair, and so I would see her sitting there on the front row with her husband then at that time, and the children and other local leaders bidding on the livestock for area youth and kids across the state and what have you. And it was always a great thrill to be able to see her there and to know that you had local folks looking out, especially for the Caddo kids when they came through. And one particular year, I think it was my 7th grade year, 1977 or so, I happened to have had the highest placing market lamb for a kid from Caddo Parish. And so that was a great honor, a great distinction, and had a chance to be able to stand there and see her bid on my livestock and drive the price up a little bit and make sure that the local kid got a premium.
Do you still have your jacket? Do you still have your 4-H jacket?
Well, now that's the FFA guys. The 4-H kids we didn't get jackets.
No jackets?
No jackets for the 4-H kids.
No wonder you
Well, now
quit.
some got them, but the ones who were
You would think the guy with the champion lamb would get a damn jacket.
The signature guys, the ones who were known for the jackets, the ones that worked for their jackets, kind of like Letterman jackets, with FFA guys, the Future Farmers of America.
State Fair. Tell me what you remember from being a kid. You brought that up for a reason, I'm sure.
I live 3 blocks from the State Fair on Queens Highway, so I heard it every night. But the real deal was that the train that came to town was a half a block from us. And so we would literally, my brother and I would go down and sit on Portland and watch it go by.
Hold on just a couple of seconds, because in this day and age, anybody under the age of maybe 50 or 40, when you say the State Fair train, they have no idea what you're talking about. Let's go to break. When we come back, you can tell us about the train and other State Fair memories, a lot of music stuff, because I know you've both got, because you've got to tell your gay papa old radio stories from Shreveport.
Right.
This is going to be an awesome day. We may just go to noon. 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, 19 past 8 o'clock. Here's Rube.
The intersection at Uri Drive and Southfield Road's dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Swan Lake Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Twenty-two past 8 o'clock. Keel Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. The LSU Tigers had been patiently waiting if Bryce Terang, their prize recruit in the 2018-19 class, would sign with the Milwaukee Brewers, who drafted him in the first round, or would he spurn the millions offered by the Brew Crew and show up on campus this year? Well, the drama is over with, because Turang, the 6'1", 195-pound shortstop out of California, has signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. In the big leagues yesterday, George Springer snapped an 0 for 8 skid. He'd also been 6 for his last 70 with an RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie things up. And then Yuli Gurriel's base hit over second base gave the Astros a 4-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. The Texas Rangers used Joey Gallo's 2-run homer to get things started, building a 5-0 lead before a rain delay. And then Ronald Guzman made it 7-zip right after the rain delay, but Rangers had to hang on for dear life, but did pick up the win on the road, 7-5 in Detroit. And in the World Cup today, it's a battle between France and Uruguay, and Brazil and Belgium. The winners advance to the semifinals. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
Not bad, huh? Just not for radio. 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Miss Erin away till Monday. Shreveport History Day with Ernie Robertson and Cedric Glover. And you talked about, right before we went to break, we were talking about memories of the state fair. You in what years, ages were you in 4-H?
Well, when my older brothers and sisters were involved, I was kindergarten, first, second, third grade. You couldn't actually begin to exhibit yourself until you got to fourth grade or 9 years old. But from my earliest memories involve the smell of sawdust and animal waste and moos and bays and
now
squills.
You're in politics. What the hell?
Absolutely. Great preparation for it.
Ernie talked about, you said that you lived, when you were a kid growing up, 3 blocks from the fairgrounds?
Yeah, Queens Highway. And it's at Queens Highway in Portland, and we were about a half a block where the railroad track went behind the other side of Queens Highway, and that was the old VS&P at one time, then later became the M. Cady Railroad, and it went behind the state fairgrounds, and that's where I-20 was built, by the way.
And you talked about, you said, and the train. I remember.
Oh, yes, the train came
now,
by.
you said, I'm 53 years old, and you said, I don't remember.
The fair always came in on trucks, with the rides and what have you. So, yeah.
But you and I are the same age. Tell me about the train.
Oh, yeah, the train. We're going, well, you just didn't live there. So you didn't get to see the guys jumping off the train because that's where the hobos got off. And the train really slowed down because they had to start adjusting. They were bringing in the Royal American Show owned by the Settlemeyer family. They were the largest traveling show in the world, and they would come in on trains and they'd slow down right where we were so guys would jump off, and then they'd go on up to behind the fairgrounds.
Now,
that's where they disembarked.
How long did it take them to set up? What memories of that do you have as a kid?
They could actually set up in about a day and a half.
Yeah.
Now, they could do it that quick. They usually were here when it started on Friday, and actually started on Friday. Then they were usually here by Tuesday afternoon. But see, my dad would take us up there almost every day. And then when brother got the 53 Ford, the great Phantom car that he had, and we would go up there when it had water in it, we would go up there and we'd drive through to see what was setting up, because the first thing they always set up at the fairgrounds was Jones Barbecue and Moortown Barbecue over by the trees on Hudson. Now, see there's a memory. And then, of course, you had like Pee Wee Cunningham Barbecue would set up, and Holy Rosary, St. Teresa, all of those guys.
I would think that living 3 blocks or so, i.e. a literal stone's throw from the state fairground, for that 2 or 3, how long did it last then? A couple of weeks like it does now?
No, it only lasted 10 days. It was a 10-day run, but every night I'm laying there, because we didn't have air conditioning.
This is my point, that you must not have slept.
Oh, I got to hear, the guy doing the talking, or barking as most folks call it, for, of course, the wall of death, the motorcycles. It's on the wall of death, and I got to hear that till about 11 o'clock at night in the roar.
Roustabout, right?
Right,
exactly.
The roar of all the diesels and everything else, and them calling people in for whether it was the freak show or Ricky Corvette or whatever the exotic show was that year.
The only part of town that I can liken that to today is right over there on by Captain Lee Hedges Stadium. I'm thinking they have football there. Those are some beautiful homes over there, just off Gator Drive. You know where I'm talking, where it cuts through.
Well, my son lives right next door.
Back behind. They have football
Some
there
in the family.
From September until Christmas. They've got 2 or 3 or 4 a week. That must drive him crazy.
But you should have heard the state fair game on that Saturday night when it was Louisiana Tech and Northwestern. You had all this roar, and then all of a sudden you'd hear, "Ah!" and everybody's screaming and yelling. You knew something happened, but you didn't know what.
In your old house as a kid, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and people of our generation, did you have an attic fan in your house?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And a floor furnace.
What?
We had a floor furnace. The attic fan was directly above the floor furnace.
And you turn that attic fan on in the summertime, and it was vents like ailerons, like on the wing of an airplane, and all the curtains and even the blinds in the house, because it would just pull in the air. And I remember the drapes, the curtains would be literally parallel to the floor, because it would just pull in that air so hard, but they worked.
Oh, they worked well. In fact, they even made them here, Barbert fans.
Just off the top of your head, and we'll come back and I want to talk about music, both of you, some music history in Shreveport. Off the top of your head, the first car you ever owned that you paid for, what year was it and how much did you pay?
Let's see, 1970.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was way up in the 70s. Because my dad bought me a car, and it lasted until I finally just tore it up.
What was it? What did he pay?
Well, he paid a little under $3,000 at Roundtree O's for an F-85, not a Cutlass, because he wouldn't buy one. Didn't have a radio, and it did have air conditioning, thank God. And so that's what I had, was the first one, 1970.
1965 Chevy pickup truck.
Yeah.
Bought it when I was 12 because we needed it for 4-H.
Wait, how old were you?
12.
A 12-year-old could buy a car.
Well, my dad bought it.
How much did you, what was the cost?
Paid $250 for it from my 4-H winnings.
Wow. First car I ever bought. My dad was a car salesman. At that point, he'd come off the road from selling women's wear. And he was working for Claude DeBow, or at that point was friends with Claude DeBow up in Vivian. And he got me a deal. I was 16 years old. A 1949 Ford that I bought for $80. It had a hole in the passenger side floor. So for Christmas, my parents bought me these industrial weight floor mats, and I tried to industrial strength staple them. Basically, it was Barney Rubble brakes. It was awesome. More with Cedric and Ernie when we come back. Shreveport Music History, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Mansfield Road and West 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Benton Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
information. KEEL News now.
Strong storms and a utility pole fire left many in Shreveport-Bossier without power into the early hours this morning. A round of severe thunderstorms kicked off the power for nearly 1,300 residents in Caddo Parish. Then, late Thursday night, a utility pole on Barksdale Boulevard caught fire, knocking out power for dozens, including the Horseshoe Casino. Power was restored to the majority of those affected around 4 a.m. this morning. The search is on for an armed suspect in Highland. Shreveport police are on the hunt for DeMarco Jones, who allegedly was illegally firing shots in the area. When police arrived on the scene late Thursday night, Jones allegedly fled on foot. Police believe he hid in a house, but was able to escape before canines were able to pinpoint his location. Jones is considered armed and dangerous. A Shreveport woman busted for allegedly stealing thousands of dollars from her employer. Kayla Baker was caught on surveillance video skimming more than $4,500 from the Walmart on Burke Coons, where she worked as a cashier. Caddo Parish Sheriff's deputies arrested and booked Baker for felony theft. The Louisiana Revenue Department is estimating they'll be ready to start collecting sales tax on all items purchased online by the start of the next year. A recent Supreme Court decision has paved the way for collection of sales taxes from stores without a physical presence in states where they ship to. Secretary Kimberly Robinson says a recent report says that'll be a good chunk of change in the state coffers.
That ranges from about 95 million to 280 million. We expect that number will come down some from what that estimate is.
Many major online retailers, such as Amazon, already collect state sales tax for online purchases, but Robinson says right now they're not getting 100% compliance from many of the smaller online outlets. Authorities say a Texas mother with a drug debt to settle is accused of selling her 7-year-old son for $2,500. The Corpus Christi woman was arrested after the woman she sold her child to contacted police. During the investigation, police found information that led them to believe the woman was also preparing to sell off her 2 young daughters as well. And despite being given a 5-year sentence for injuring 32 people when he drunkenly plowed his truck into a crowd at a New Orleans Mardi Gras celebration, Nielsen Rizzuto will be free later this month. With the 2017 prison reform law allowing the release of well-behaved inmates after serving 35% of their sentence for nonviolent offenses, Rizzuto is reaping the benefits of less time in the clink. Rizzuto's expected release date is July 20th. And Saturday night, you can run with the Bulls in downtown Bossier. Well, kinda. In the vein of the running of the Bulls in Spain, the Twin City Roller Derby team will be hosting Go Toro in the new East Bank district. Members of the roller derby team will be the Bulls and will chase participants all over downtown Bossier. All proceeds will be split between the Gingerbread House and Twin City Roller Derby team. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. The KEEL app, a free download presented by Office Furniture Source. Erin off until Monday in studio. Been awesome so far, don't you think?
It's been great.
What's been the best part so far?
I love
We're talking about you
hearing
guys
about
like
the
you're not
food.
here. Huh?
I loved hearing about all the old food places. That's awesome.
Like I said, man, I'd come home, God, Abe's was a favorite. I'd love to go to that. Ernie Robertson, Registrar of Voters, but just as Shreveport historian. Cedric Glover, State Representative, but not as a State Representative today. In studio, one of our Shreveport History Days. You put on Facebook last night. You painted me into the corner, old friend. You said, maybe I can get Robert to talk about a little Shreveport music history. And then you said, by the way, happy birthday to Stan Lewis. Now, I went to high school at Jesuit, then Loyola now, with Stan's two sons, Lenny and James. And Lenny's still around town. Tell me about your memories of Stan Lewis, Stan the Record Man.
Well, I remember him from the shop, down on Texas Street. And I also remember that he was the only place you could go find blues in Shreveport. And so I would go by there for that. And then the other thing I remember was that the people that actually worked there were very knowledgeable. It wasn't like going to Sears and buying a record. And I'd pay more to go down there because I remember one time I was looking for a Rod Stewart and Maggie May, and I couldn't remember the name of the song. I was having one of those mental blocks, and I went down there and actually hummed it. They said, oh, it's Maggie May. And so, that kind of thing that you would see, but Stan was there. Now, the only thing is Stan talked at 100 miles a minute sometimes, telling people to go do things, which you do that 5 times while he's talking to you. So the conversation sometimes was short. But Don Logan worked there, Dandy Don Logan, from a radio station that's similar to what y'all's call letters are. And Dandy Don was there. And then you'd also see Walker and Rhodey music store, guitar shop, was just right around the corner. It was down on Louisiana, not far from Gilmore News. And so you could buzz by there, and there's no telling who's going to be in Walker and Rhodey because the guys that were out, like Johnny Green, the Green Men, pulled up in the Cadillac one time, and they all get out with green hair. I have never forgot that in my whole life.
What?
Johnny Green and the Green Men.
You'll have to fill me in on that. Help me out a little bit.
Well, they were out at Saks, and they had a big old black Cadillac that they drove around like a limo. And so they had dyed their hair green, and they were kind of a, for lack of a better term, kind of like a rock and roll revival group before rock and roll needed a revival. And so, and so they were actually there. And I've always believed, and I can't talk about it here, that Stan Lewis actually saved rock and roll, because once Buddy Holly died, we went into about 5 years of misery having to listen to Fabian and Frankie Avalon. And
well, you tell me, Stan Lewis saved rock and roll. Give me the abridged version.
Well, the abridged version is he was smart enough to understand, because he was friends with the Chess record folks, and he was picking up catalogs and also putting out records for people that would later become not only good blues players, some of them were blues players their catalogs were lost, and he would go get them and save all that along with Ram Records.
Paula Records was his record label, wasn't it?
Paula was his main one. He also had some other ones that were associated with it, but he put out other people on other record labels too.
Favorite local band when you were a kid growing up? Favorite local band? Because I remember Joe Stampley and the Uniques. That's who you wanted, was Joe Stampley and the Uniques. At the old Progressive Men's Club out on the lake. You've been there once or twice. The point I'm making was, if you got Joe Stampley, you had scored for your prom or homecoming.
Well, there were a lot of local groups: Blue Denims, Blue Shadows, Tom and the Cats, and then I was actually in a group, believe it or not. I actually play guitar, which was the Fabulous Lost Souls Show Band, and we set the record.
I remember that.
Yeah,
one.
For the St. Teresa's CYO New Year's Eve thing or something.
Oh my God, I was a fan and I didn't even know all these years.
Christ the King. I mean, we were big into those.
When you were a kid growing up, local bands that you guys listened to.
Well, now see, I'm drawing pretty much a blank. The local band that probably sticks with me the most is Windstorm and Ron Johnson, which has been around since the 80s,
right,
and continues to perform in Shreveport today. But in terms of thinking about, local bands that performed, I think my era was more DJs and records and what have you. And so the idea of actual live performances, a la what you guys grew up in that 50s, 60s era, was not as prevalent during the 80s.
In to the same degree that Larry Ryan here on KEEL in the 60s into the 70s so dominated Shreveport's popular culture, especially the youth culture, to the same degree, KOKA and the DJ with Gay Papa, and his real, this is awesome.
Sunrose Rutledge
was his real name.
Absolutely. I mean, and legend for those of us growing up in Black Shreveport in the 70s and all the way into the early 80s, I would imagine. The soundtrack of your life was Gay Papa. I mean, that's what you woke up with every morning, and he literally got your day off, told you whether or not you had a snow day or not, and all of the news that was going on, and introduced you into the new music that was coming along. And he even had some records himself. He produced a very famous and popular record called the Gay Papa Cha Cha. That was well known and sung by kids, and probably the thing that he was most famous for was he had an automobile, a car that we all call the Batmobile, and it literally
that was a nice name for it.
Oh, it was.
So you remember it also?
Oh, absolutely. Gay Papa used to buzz over to Griff's Burger Bar, and my wife.
The one on Southern, you mean?
No, the one that was there right there on Linwood.
Okay.
And he'd buzz in that car, which was an early 70s Cadillac, I think, long in there. It was about 110 feet long. And
got me a Chrysler big as a whale.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
And he would come
had a
in
record
there.
player in it.
Yeah, had a record player.
Hold
Sure
on,
did.
wait, stop the presses, so to speak. Tell me about this.
It had a record player, a telephone,
A
television.
record, it must have had like a shock absorbing system.
It a spring system that you could see it. Oh yeah, it was amazing.
I'm trying. Yes, the engineering feat of having a 45 turntable, I assume in the front seat of your rolling down the road vehicle with springs and whatever else. Either that, like we used to do when we were kids, when the record would skip, you'd put like dimes on the
swing arm.
Yeah, exactly. And it would like screw your record up, but it wouldn't skip anymore. I'm trying to think, what on earth must it draw for us a picture, if you can, paint for us a picture of a man who had a record player in his vehicle.
Well, I think was it in the center console?
It was in the console. That's what I remember too. It was like right beside him where he could just literally pop on a 45.
The cartridge was the word I couldn't think of.
The cartridge,
on the needle cartridge.
But I don't know how it was engineered. But B.B. Birdbrain Davis was on there. One of the great stories for B.B. And I told it to him. Of course, he didn't remember it because he was in his 80s then. I said, one Saturday night, I believe, buddy and I were going down the road, and you said, I wish some lonely lady would bring me some nice hot donuts to the back door. He said, I did not say that. I said, you really did. I said, at that point, we went off the lake road because we were laughing so much at, what is he doing? But he would say some of the zaniest things, and he was great. He was
I met him. He was working at KVKI still. In 96 when Erin and I started next door on the old Big Dog 94.5, and he was still on KVKI. And
still around.
Yeah, and what a sweet man he was. What just a nice,
but
gentle.
Eddie Giles and the Jive 5 right here in Shreveport. Eddie G and the Jive 5. And still collects royalties on Crime Boy. Losing Boy. Losing Boy still collects royalties on there because I saw him at the post office on June 30th. That's when you get your royalties. And he's a great guy. He's Reverend Giles now. And we
does
have a
morning radio at local radio station, local gospel station as well.
Yeah.
First concert you ever saw in Shreveport. Do you remember?
You want me to talk gospel or do you want me to talk rock?
No, any kind of concert. No, not gospel.
You got to remember, my dad drugged me to gospel concerts forever. But I would say rock concert, probably in the mid-'60s because I was at Fair Park.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I think I really started.
Remember what the show was? And did you have a date? What was their name?
Oh, I didn't have a date. I was working, of course.
Okay. Oh, you were the usher. Okay.
Yeah, I was the usher. And I'm positive it probably was the Stones. That was my first concert because we didn't have that.
You remember?
All of the early 1970s concerts that came to the Hirsch. My parents made my older brothers and sisters take me, so I saw Jackson 5 and the Commodores.
You're a burden on them to this day.
Well, now, I was a big kid, so I was able to go out and kind of stubborn and hard-headed. So, I'd go find my section of the main floor. And back in those days, the tradition was taking those white plastic chairs and stacking them on top of each other so you could stand on top and get a better view. So, pretty much after 15 minutes of walking inside, I'd be somewhere by myself.
Do you remember what show, the first one you went to?
Jackson 5. That's the one that I have the most clearest memories of.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, I guess if Michael Jackson, I think, did the Robot in like 1973 or so on Soul Train. So probably at that time I was between 8 and 9. That was a big 8 and 9, though.
Three Dog Night, Municipal Auditorium. No, Three Dog Night, Hirsch Coliseum, 1969, Jody Reinders. Thank you very much. 849, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Your money now is just ahead. AccuWeather.com forecast might rain today. A few clouds, a little sunshine, low 90s. It's 83 at Keel. 1017 FM, 710 Keel, 856. Cedric and Ernie still here. Okay, so we've got about 3 or 4 minutes here in wrapping up another Shreveport History Day. That has been awesome. And you said, because we were talking about the old dirt track at the fairgrounds, and you said, oh, man.
Often thought about how we could have actually gotten us a NASCAR weekend had we not torn down the racetrack. And Ernie said that we actually had one back in.
We did. It was about June 6, 1953. I think that's the right date. And NASCAR was actually here the week before. They'd been up and around, I think, Charlotte. And anyway, they came here, and Lee Petty won the race. And we had local drivers here who were competitive with him. Herschel Buchanan, Ralph Dyer, they were in the field. I think Snuffy Smith, an old driver from here, was in the field.
Wow. You had mentioned a couple of seconds ago about the first show you went to. You said, well, I remember it's 72, the Jacksons. I went, wait a minute, the Jackson 5 played here? And you ran down a list of some of the bands.
Oh, every year you had those Motown-era bands that came through this area on a regular basis. Jackson 5, Parliament Funkadelics, the Commodores, they all came. They came every year.
Rick
as a part
James,
of their
you
tour.
said, was here?
Oh, Rick James, Prince, all those guys from the 70s all the way through the 80s. So from elementary school to junior high through high school, Hirsch Coliseum was a place where all of the national touring acts came. They stopped. In fact, we talked about how during that early 80s period when the Bertinelli family was based out of Shreveport because Steve Bertinelli worked at GM.
Yeah.
And Valerie was married to Eddie
Patrick
Van
was
Halen.
working at the Times.
Exactly. The Van Halen started their national tour off every year here in Shreveport at the Hirsch Coliseum.
On the way out, you have a question, you have a challenge, you want to lay down, you have, well, you phrase it the way you want.
Well, a very famous rock musician said that the Byrds, the famous
You can say who it
60s
is,
rock
it's okay.
Well, I won't say that, but I'll just say he had an unusual memory that they were at Hirsch Coliseum, and I have spent the better part of a couple of weeks trying to find were they actually at Hirsch Coliseum.
He made this statement at his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Is that what you said?
Their induction.
Okay,
The Byrds
into
induction.
at the Byrds
induction. And he said he was here in Shreveport and heard them at Shreveport, and I can't find that they were here. So if somebody has a date, time, and place for when the Byrds are actually, or better, if you have a ticket stub, I don't think you do, but you could possibly
because it doesn't exist.
I don't know. I mean, you could actually shoot me one of those. And while we're at it, don't forget Otis Redding was here in Shreveport with one of those cavalcade of stars, along with Arthur Conley. I know he was there that night.
Wow,
And,
sweet soul
Jimi
music,
Hendrix,
Arthur.
of course,
Yeah,
was here.
yeah. Gentlemen, an amazing day. State Representative Cedric Glover, thank you very much. Registrar of Voters, Ernie Robertson, awesome
Thank you.
as always.
Thank you guys.
Just are you kidding? Another great day, believe me. 859, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Ruben's here.
The intersection at Mansfield Road and West 70th Street's dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Benton Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and hot with a high of 95 today. Increasing clouds tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around and a low of 74. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 1017 FM and 710 Keel. KEEL, Shreveport.